another episode of the Tip Balls Podcast. I am your host, Sam Randazzo, and I am joined today by my two slightly musty co-hosts. To my right, it is the one and only Uncle Sam.
Hello.
And behind the computer, not really paying attention to much, it is Bruce, the Tugboat Vin Diddy.
That's about right. What's going on?
Well, most of week 2 of the NFL season is over. We, for some reason, have 2 Monday night matchups tonight between the Titans and Bills and the Vikings and Eagles. So
Stupid.
you
I hate that they do that on Monday nights. One game's enough.
Well, I think it's because there's no bye weeks yet.
Okay.
But either way, you guys will hear our full reaction to those games during our Fantasy Frenzy on Wednesday. But we have a lot of great weekend action to talk about. Some games that, some came down to the wire. Some were extremely boring. One that I said on Friday was going to be a quote-unquote air raid did indeed end up being the definition of an air raid. But first things first, the Tuggernut was at Ford Field on Sunday, so we figured we would start there with the Lions-Commanders matchup. The Lions, for the first time in, I would say, recent memory, were leading in a game the entire time and did not fuck it up. So, all over social media now there are pictures of the blue Kool-Aid guy because, yes, there are plenty of Lions fans that are drinking the proverbial Kool-Aid today after the Lions beat the Washington Commanders in pretty solid fashion, 36-27. At the half, it was 22-0. And then the Commanders came out and put up 15 in the third quarter, which kind of made it a little bit of a game. But ultimately, the Lions held on to win. And Bruce,
You know what? That's kind of bullshit too, because they were in fucking win mode. They were in ease it up mode. And that's what happens to teams, and it happens to everybody.
Bruce, tell us what you saw at Ford Field over the weekend.
I saw a bunch of electricity, that's for sure. That stadium was rocking all 4 quarters. And, fuck the refs, because they can get bent.
Here we go.
Okay.
Typical Lions fan.
No, okay, and it didn't have to result in the Lions losing or whatever, but it still fucked the refs because there was a couple cheap shots and it was bullshit. But somebody called George Bush because the Lions found a W. All right?
What the hell is wrong with you?
I thought about that one for quite a while, actually.
Did you?
I did.
Yeah. Put it wherever you found it and don't ever bring it back out.
All right, well, let's talk about Wentz real quick before you tell us what else happened at Ford Field. Okay. Wentz had another pretty good game. 337 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. He was sacked 5 times because Aiden Hutchinson decided to have the first quarter of his life. And I will say this. He looked pretty good again. Granted, it's not MVP.
Wentz is nice, dude.
But he does not look like he did last year in Indianapolis, which is a absolute fucking shit show that we'll discuss a little bit more later on. But the one thing that I can say just from looking at the stat sheet that the Lions did very well was stopping the run. Antonio Gibson only had 28 yards on 14 rushes. He did get a tud, but J.D. McKissick 3 for 9. There was no run ability out of Washington at all yesterday.
Which surprises me. I thought for sure they were going to run the ball right at him.
So did I, especially after the game Gibson had
I think
in
they
week
gave
1.
up on it too easy.
Yeah.
And I think they figured they could really expose that secondary for the Lions. I don't think they were expecting the heat that they got turned on them.
Well, as far as receiving, because all they could do was throw the ball, Curtis Samuel, 9 targets, 7 receptions, 78 yards, and a tud. He continues his reemergence after being extremely quiet last year. Terry McLaurin found his way a little bit, 8 targets, 4 receptions, 75 yards. And Jahan Dotson, 59 yards, and picked up his 3rd touchdown of the year as a rookie. So there was definitely some high points for the Commanders. But what did you see that ultimately was the factors of this game?
One big thing actually was Aiden Hutchinson getting 3 sacks and actually putting pressure on Wentz that entire game. And it wasn't just coming from him as well. Liam McNeil was up there a couple times. I didn't think I heard Charles Harris's name.
He got a sack.
Did he get a sack?
Yeah.
That front
And a
seven.
forced fumble. And a forced fumble.
That front seven was just that was the highlight of the game. I wasn't even excited about seeing the offense for once. I was excited to see DeAndre Swift. The guy I just want to
interesting.
I want to listen to you've seen Rick and Morty, right?
Yes.
You know the Let's Get Swifty song?
Shift.
Ooh, let's get Swifty.
Okay.
Yeah. Dude is an animal. All right.
Well,
Amon-Ra St. Brown is a pit bull playing at wide receiver, just like Dan Campbell said. The dude, he just is. But at the end of the game there, the biggest thing was that the defense was gassed. They were all gassed. Aiden Hutchinson was coming on and off the field every other play.
Aiden Hutchinson got banged up in that game.
He was limping. He was limping at halftime, but it looked like he did not want to come out of the game. He was still fighting. Anzalone was, taking a couple breaths.
High school.
Oh, God.
People were coming on and off the field. I mean, but they stood in there and they battled.
Their ass
They
off.
battled.
Their ass off.
Well,
That's good.
I'll say this much. According to the stat sheet, the highlight for the Lions was the Goff to St. Brown connection. Jared Goff, 20 for 34, 256 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks, was sacked 3 times, and a quarterback rating of 121.7. Realistically, I don't know what more you could ask for out of Jared Goff.
I thought he played a solid game.
Amon-Ra St. Brown, 12 targets on 9 receptions, 116 yards, 2 tuds. Obviously, he had a big day. And you want to know what surprised me? And I know you were talking about Swift. He only had 5 runs,
Yeah.
56 yards.
Yeah.
Jamal Williams got over double the carries at 12. Craig Reynolds got 3. And I think
Which is cool to see. Which is
the
very
3
cool to
times
see.
Craig Reynolds had the ball in his hand, I thought he ran well. He did have one 11-yard run. Jamal Williams averaged 4.4 yards per carry on 12 rushes. I'll take that all day long. They looked well-rounded yesterday. I'll say that much.
Swift is averaging 7 yards per carry.
Yeah.
The Lions as a team are averaging almost 7 yards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's key.
Another
You wanna
thing
know
that
what the key that I thought the key was to the entire game. You had 3 backups playing at the guard positions and
Dan Skipper, baby.
and them
Forgot the other
guys
guy's names.
held their own against probably one of the 2 best tackle tandems in the league in Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen. And they pretty much controlled the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
So I'll be honest with you. Obviously, I picked the Commanders in this game at the end of last week. And
Oh, I did too, because I after I heard Ragnow was out,
as soon as I
and
saw
then Jonah
Ragnow
Jackson
was out,
I thought for sure they were going to get pounded.
I thought Ragnow being out of this game would essentially completely deflate the Lions' offense. And I was wrong.
And then you got an All-Pro from last year who was out at last minute.
Right.
And I just didn't think they would be able to control the line of scrimmage.
Neither did
but
I.
them guys that came in did a hell of a job. Hell of a job. And let me tell you something about Detroit right now. I said this from the beginning. I don't think their offense was going to be the problem. Of this
And it's
team.
not.
I really don't.
And it's not.
Right now, they're amongst the league's leaders in yards and touches, and I'm impressed with it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the
Ed
writing.
Johnson, I'm impressed.
I will
fucking
say
impressed.
this: the secondary, as young as they are, they're getting there.
Laurier was
yeah,
hurt. He didn't
they're-
even play.
Yes,
Their best corner didn't even play.
but they're getting there.
They've
getting
put up
better.
71
That's what
points
you
in
can do.
2
You
games.
get pressure on a quarterback. I tried to explain this to you last week about the pressure. If the front 7 can get pressure, the back end fixes itself. Those guys don't have to cover as long.
Right.
It helps.
Another
that pressure
thing-
means everything.
That I saw was TJ in like the first quarter was not catching ball.
Hawkinson doesn't do anything. Honest to God.
He was not, but he pulled it together because he grabbed a few.
You know what?
Resulted
I'll
in a
say
first
this.
down or
I'll
so.
say this for him that I seen. The passes that were thrown at him weren't very accurate. I will say that.
the one he got hit
right
right
It was
before the
behind
ball.
him.
Yeah,
I
Let's stop cutting him a fucking break.
What do you mean? I think
I'm
he's
sick
agree.
and tired of hearing his
He is
name.
no Rob Gronkowski.
He's
no,
not.
he's
He
not.
is never.
I don't know about that.
I don't even think
don't know
he's.
about that.
He's not even.
Like Gesicki.
He's not Gesicki or Freiermuth. He's
No,
not. He's not. He will get you his 30 yards a week, just like he did. 3 receptions for 36.
I think the big thing with him is his options coming up. Do not take it.
I agree. To this point, T.J. Hawkinson has been a disappointment. He was a first-round tight end pick, and when you are picking
8th overall pick.
yes, you expect them to come in and make an instant offensive impact. They need to be an instant threat in the receiving game. T.J. Hawkinson is in no way, shape, or form, realistically, at any point so far in his career, been a threat in this receiving game.
Absolutely.
Period. He's not. When you are drafting a guy that high at the tight end position, you're expecting them to come in and not be Travis Kelce, but have games like Travis Kelce. And he
Or
can't
Zach
do it.
Ertz. Or any other viable tight end in
He's
this
just
league.
not there. He's just not there.
He was picked higher
Still
than
got a
all
whole
those
season.
guys.
Correct.
Hey,
Still
he was
got a
picked
whole
higher
season
than
to
all
go.
these guys.
Still got a whole season to go.
Anyway,
He'll show up.
He sucks.
Lions
show up.
Lions pull off a big win against the Commanders in a game that I thought when I looked at the TV, all right, and I'm sitting there watching it, and it's the third quarter, and I thought this was going to be the setup for the debacle that we usually
Correct.
see. And for once, the Lions did not debacle. They held
Especially
on.
when
to
they
win.
got
Yeah.
within a touchdown.
I mean,
I know.
people, they were, even in the fourth quarter, when there was like a minute left, people were leaving. And there was still a chance that they could have came back.
Yeah,
and
I
won
mean,
that
it-
game. And I was like, this is the Detroit Lions.
Right,
You
they-
guys need to be sitting down and watching this game because we didn't win until that clock says 0,
Right.
0, 0.
Correct. And they will keep you on the edge. They will keep you on the edge of your seat all year, but ultimately they pulled off the dub, which is great for Lions fans. The next game we have to talk about. I was rooting so hard for a team that I didn't give a shit about just because I wanted to see the Cleveland Browns fucking lose that game so bad. It was karma. That game was karma.
Gangrene and the ghost of Joe Flacco.
Ghost of fucking
My
Flacco.
God.
Over
Can you
600
believe
yards of passing in the
he-
first
he
2
was-
weeks.
Flacco was good. He was very good.
He was good. He was good. And, just looking over my notes from Friday's show, it's the same exact thing. The Jets were a little sloppy.
Yes.
I mean, they just were. But Flacco, much like he did in week 1, had fucking ice in his veins.
And here's the thing. Nick Chubb had a great game.
Great
He
game.
had 3 touchdowns.
Over
My
80
man-
yards and
my
3
man was a
touchdowns.
Monster.
Yep. And I'll tell you what, Kareem Hunt was effective as well. Kareem Hunt went for 58 yards, Chubb 87 yards. Again, Chubb had 3 tuds, so there was none left for Kareem Hunt. But they were able to run the ball on the Jets pretty effectively. I mean, Jacoby Brissett even had 6 rushes for 43 yards himself. So the front of that Jets defense didn't really pose much of an issue for them running the ball. Amari Cooper had a nice day. 9 receptions, 101 yards. At the end of the day, Jacoby Brissett made mistakes
Yes.
when the game was on the line. Essentially, Jacoby Brissett threw that game away for the Browns. Now, granted, the Jets pretty much across the board offensively had a nice game. Flacco, like I said, over 300 yards passing and 4 tuds. Breece Hall, 7 rushes for 50 yards. Finally, we got our first glimpse of what he could be on a decent little game from him. Michael Carter had a slow day. But receiving, Garrett Wilson.
Garrett Wilson's coming out party.
8 of 14 for 102 and 2 tuds. Corey Davis had another big game. Again, I fucking hate him, but he had another big game. 2 receptions for 83 yards.
He was wide open. There was nobody with
66-yard receiving touchdown for him. Elijah Moore, decent little game. Like, we're talking about another offense that looks kind of like the Lions. Pretty well-rounded. Got a couple good threats running the ball.
I don't think their offensive line is as good as the Lions.
I agree with that
really
wholeheartedly.
don't. And if they get a little better, which you're gonna, look out.
I
They
agree.
could be very dangerous in that division.
And at one point yesterday, I was watching this game. And I'm sitting there, and I tweeted it out that I thought the Jets looked like they were just a good quarterback away from really being a threat to everybody. And then you go back and you look at Flacco's stat line.
They
Right
scored
now,
2 touchdowns within the 2-minute warning.
there's a minute and 20. They scored 14 points with a minute and 22 seconds left to rip out the fucking Browns' heart. And you know what? The Browns are such fucking scumbags. I loved every second of it.
I didn't.
I loved every
did
second of
too.
watching with
I
their
am so
stupid
fucking glad they lost.
with their stupid little weird elf on midfield now. It's fucking weird.
Well, I don't mind that. I don't mind the elf. He reminds me of Bruce.
What?
It looked like Bruce out in the middle of the field over there. He looked like Tugger Nut.
just
But
pasty
you know
and
what?
hairless.
I was glad. I was glad that Robert Saleh got his first win of the season.
Yeah.
They played hard, and I see a trend. I see a trend now with Saleh, with the Lions, that these coaches
The guys are
got these
playing
guys
for 'em.
running through fire for
Yep.
them, and that's a great thing.
Yeah, they got him playing for him. And I think that's a great trait to have. And here's the problem. It's like we talked about. The Browns, it doesn't matter when Deshaun Watson comes back this year, they're going to be in such fucking disarray that it's not going
Is
to
it going to
matter.
be salvageable by the time he gets back? No, I
it's
really
done.
don't think so.
No, I mean they're.
I mean, he's not eligible till week 12.
You have to figure they are running the ball as good as any team out there right now, and still can't pick up those wins. And one, because of Jacoby Brissett. Two,
They had
because
that
they're
game
just
won.
dysfunctional.
They had that game won. There's no reason you give up 2 touchdowns under the 2-minute.
No, that's just neither of these defenses, the Browns or the Jets, are played well at all. But I'll say this much: the Jets' defense, when you watch them play, they show that there's upside there. Right? They're green. The Jets' defense is just young and green, and I think they will fall into a better stride.
They got probably the oldest guy in that defense is C.J. Mosley,
CJ Mosley, I would
and he's their leader.
go to bet.
Yeah.
But the Browns, it's just not a good situation.
It's just not there for him.
No.
And I was glad to see that the Jets got the win.
But
They fought their ass off and they deserved it.
I agree. That was a great football game. That game gave you hope in football, right there.
Hey, shout out! I said it. Garrett Wilson.
Wilson had his.
I
that
thought
his
he was
breakout.
the best receiver prospect outside of Williamson coming out.
Well, I guess we'll see tonight.
Jameis Williams, I thought, was the best receiver in college football last year, but Garrett Wilson, I thought, was the most NFL ready.
I would argue with Treylon Burks, but I agree with you.
I thought Wilson was.
Garrett Wilson looked like a veteran yesterday by the way he played. And you talked about Robert Saleh and Dan Campbell being rah-rah coaches and really getting their teams ready to run through a wall. And now I want to talk about somebody who doesn't have their team ready to run through a wall, and that's Bill Belichick. After yesterday's win in Pittsburgh, where star wide receiver Kendrick Bourne didn't check into the game till the fourth quarter.
I don't know what the hell's going on with these guys.
He had some words for the media, which essentially involved that nobody inside the New England organization knows what's going on. Their offense is in disarray, and nobody has the answer.
You know why the offense is in disarray?
Well,
because shitbag is the offensive coordinator, and he fucking sucks.
Shit.
I can't stand this guy. How is this guy still in this league? What is Belichick doing? Sabotaging him?
in what I thought was the most boring game of the weekend, the Patriots won a real barn burner in Pittsburgh, 17-14.
They're so lucky TJ Watt wasn't playing.
Oh my God. The Pittsburgh defense looked dull without him yesterday.
Yes.
They didn't get any pressure on Mac Jones. Yeah, 0 sacks. They definitely miss having TJ Watt there.
They dropped a couple of interceptions that they should have had. The Steelers did.
They did. Their defense just didn't look crisp yesterday. And that was kind of reflected in the Patriots rushing game. Damian Harris.
Myers just comes up just big when they need him.
He does.
He bailed them out.
Aguilar had a great game yesterday.
Yes.
Jacoby Myers had a great game yesterday. Damian Harris, 15 rushes, 71 yards, and a touchdown. Rodmore Stevenson, 9 rushes for 47.
He came up a little lame at the end of that game.
He did.
And he was hurt.
He did. And that's when Stevenson got his time. But for the most part, out of those two guys, that's a good game. That's what you can expect out of Damian Harris on a top-end game, 71 yards and a tud. Nelson Aguilar, 6 for 6 for 110 and a touchdown. Jacoby Myers, 9 for 13, 95 yards. Kendrick Bourne even came in the fourth quarter. He only had 2 receptions for 16, which, again, don't really understand. And everyone's favorite, Devontae Parker, no receptions, no yards, no stat line, as was Hunter Henry, which surprised me. But
That surprised me too, because I think Hunter Henry is their go-to guy. But Pittsburgh did a really good job defending the tight end
they did.
because they were trying to get the ball to him. They just couldn't. Fitzpatrick's a monster. He was on.
Yeah, Minkah
he was on
Fitzpatrick.
Henry the whole game.
I mean, Minkah Fitzpatrick is
Probably
I don't
the
think
premier safety right now.
doesn't
I
get
think.
enough. I mean, he covers the field like a center fielder, man. He's everywhere.
And he supports the
Constantly in
He is
run
such
support.
a big hitter, and he plays with reckless abandon. I
Yeah,
like that.
he doesn't give a shit.
I love that.
I do too. Mac Jones had a very Mac Jones-like day. 21 for 35, 250 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. That's
Fitzpatrick had the pick.
Mac Jones. Trubisky had a Trubisky-like day. 21 for 33, 168 yards, a touchdown, a pick, and 3 sacks.
I was waiting for Trubisky to come back to norm.
Yeah, and here we go.
We all seen it.
Yeah. And I think realistically, outside of not having TJ Watt, who, again, is the catalyst for that defense, we've said it a million times, Najee Harris has not yet woken up. And I don't know if that's
He's a little banged up right now, and
15 rushes,
their offensive
49
line
yards.
played like shit.
Their offense, Pittsburgh needs offensive line help.
They played like shit.
There's a lot of fantasy Najee Harris owners right now that don't have an answer because, I mean, realistically, this guy was supposed to take the world by storm.
Look how good they played last week compared
They
to
did.
this week.
They did. And
They're very inconsistent.
that falls on the shoulders of not having TJ Watt. Really, that's such a big loss for that team, more than they'll know. But the Patriots scrape out, barely get a win, 17-14. And I'll tell you what, they didn't play well.
No.
They did not play well. This
They left
Patriots
some points
team,
on the field.
Yes,
They left a lot of points on the field. The Patriots.
yes, this Patriots team, I believe every bit of what Kendrick Bourne said when there's problems. And I don't know how, when, why they're going to get fixed. But if you're only beating Pittsburgh by a field goal in a pretty ugly fashion,
Yeah.
you can't expect much from them this year. Speaking of Bill Belichick, the Buccaneers went into New Orleans yesterday, and Tom Brady led them to a victory, 20-10 over the Saints. And if that Patriots-Steelers game was the most boring game of the weekend, the Buccaneers-Saints game was the ugliest game of the weekend. I mean,
I thought
it was 3-0 at the half.
I liked it. I liked that game. Them defenses were fighting hard.
They were.
And I'll tell you what, Jameis Winston actually looked good in the first 3 quarters of that game.
Yeah, it all fell apart.
And then he just, I don't know what happened to him. He became the Jameis Winston of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Well,
And he pick after pick, bad throw after bad throw. And I was just like, I couldn't understand what the hell was going on.
Alvin Kamara did not play in that game. Okay, we'll start with that. Chris Godwin did not play in this game. Julio Jones did not play in this game. This was the watered down version of the Saints Buccaneers matchup. Okay, and then we had a fight ensue where Mike Evans and Marshawn Lattimore both got ejected from the game.
Best thing that happened to Tampa.
Agree. That team came out with a different fire in them after
They were
fight.
totally a different team after that.
That's Tom Brady. What do you want me to do?
Well, I mean, I'm going to tell you this.
That's what Mike Evans
made
said.
Brady gut it out.
Yeah.
And you haven't seen him have to do this since he's been in Tampa.
No, I agree with that.
He hasn't had to gut out a win since he's been there.
And
He gutted it out, and he drove these guys downfield, and then put one on, dropped a dime
yeah,
right at the end there to cut
Rashad
their heart out.
Perriman It was a absolutely beautiful
Dropped a dime.
ball.
Nicest throw I've seen him throw in 2 years.
I agree with that. That was an absolutely beautifully thrown ball. Brady to
Especially
Perriman.
when it was a 3rd and short.
For
They
28
didn't even
yards.
need
Yep.
that,
They
and
didn't.
he just went right to the juggler.
did it.
And as soon as he hit that, I was like, it's over.
And
It's over right here.
after Evans got thrown out of the game, Perriman did step up. He had 3 receptions for 45 yards, all in the second half. Scotty Miller came in with 3 receptions and 34 yards of his own. And Russell Gage, finding himself as Brady's little dump-off guy, 5 receptions for 28 yards. The biggest issue I saw with that Buccaneers offense, outside of the way Brady played, 'cause it was a very un-Brady-like game.
No tight end. There's no tight end there.
Absolutely no usage of the tight end.
And-
Kyle Rudolph didn't
he's
matter.
known for
Cameron
that.
Brate didn't matter. They needed some help with the tight end. And, of course, as soon as you talk about Tom Brady and the tight end, the rumors are swirling that he has reached out to Rob Gronkowski to possibly make some sort of a comeback. It was going around this morning. So, again, we'll keep an eye out on that. I don't know how much weight I put in that. But the biggest issue I saw, Leonard Fournette got 24 rushes and only accumulated 65 yards.
That was against a top run defense in the NFL.
I agree with you there, but still,
They are one of the top run defenses in the NFL.
I'm not concerned with Fournette.
It's a makeshift line.
The offensive Tampa you must, if you are going to get Brady where he needs to be in the playoffs this year, you must go out and invest in offensive line help now. You need to go out and you need to offer up the house to get an elite offensive lineman in here. You need to go find somebody and pay him. Somebody needs to go blow Andrew Whitworth out of retirement. I don't know what you need to do, but you've got to do
God,
something.
Here's the thing. They're so far in it now to bring somebody in and try to get them up to speed of what's going on there. It's going to be a real difficult thing.
Well,
I mean, they have guys on their practice squad that they can bring up, just like the Lions had to do. They have guys there. Are they going to be at an elite level? No. But if they could string together here's the thing. They're 2-0. They're 2-0.
they're 2-0, but
They're
I mean,
fucking 2-0 on the road. Both games on the fucking road.
By a hair.
In hard places to win.
well, they got Green Bay at home this week, and that's going to be an interesting game. I think it'll be another ugly one, to be
Well,
honest.
here's the thing. You're going to see how good Tampa's defense is. Because
Well-
if Green Bay comes out and tries to run the football on them like they did this week, it might be an exciting game.
I think Tampa's
Could turn
defense
into a shootout.
Tampa's defense is pretty goddamn good, I'll say that much.
Yes.
They held the Cowboys to 3 points in week 1. They ruined Dak Prescott's career. They picked off Jameis Winston 3 times yesterday, which I know isn't saying much because that's just another day in the office for Winston, but they got to him 6 times.
Yeah.
They had 6 sacks in that game. That's promising for the Buccaneers defense. Now, Chris Olave had a nice little game himself, 5 receptions for
Another
80
rookie.
yards. Michael Thomas finally got a touchdown, 6 for 65 and a tud.
He had 2 last week.
Late in the game, I meant when I said finally. Excuse
Yeah.
me. They got that touchdown late in the game. Because up until that point, up until the fourth quarter, it was 3-3 in this game.
Right.
And it was that Evans-Lattimore brawl that really woke everybody up. Yeah.
Yep. Best thing that happened to Brady.
I want to talk about the game that we sat at this table on Friday and said would be the game of the week. And I wanted to go back to my Friday notes and I wanted to look at them and revel in how knowledgeable us three are at football. We said that the Dolphins versus Ravens game was the best game on the schedule. Lamar could be a highlight reel, and this game would be nothing but an air raid. I also said over points will be glory, and I did pick Baltimore -3.5, which ended up being wrong in a wild fucking fashion because Tua Tagovailoa was essentially carting around his testicles in a wheelbarrow after that game. The way he played to gut that game.
I have to say this, and I know this is going to sound weird. This is what happens when you're up big and you kind of take your foot off the gas, and that's exactly what the Ravens did. They took their foot off the gas, And here comes these guys, and I'll tell you what, between Waddle and Tyreek Hill, those are two of the fastest dudes in the league. Gotta be. I mean, that was ridiculous. It's like a fucking track meet.
You have to remember, going into the fourth quarter, this game was 35-14 in favor of the Ravens.
Yeah.
35-14.
The defense was gassed. Those guys couldn't get any kind of a push up front. And then the secondary, those guys were gassed. They couldn't even cover anybody anymore.
And then Tua comes out, throws 3 touchdowns to start off the fourth quarter, 2 of which were to Tyreek Hill. To tie the game at 35, Justin Tucker comes out, kicks a 51-yarder to put the Ravens up by 3. And then with 19 seconds left, Tua finds Jalen Waddle to seal the deal. I mean, if you watched that game, it was just that fourth quarter, that last 15 minutes of football was exceptional. It was so exciting. I mean,
we watch these guys, they broke 1 tackle and they were gone.
Tua Tagovailoa, the man of the hour, 36 for 50, 469 yards, 6 touchdowns, 2 picks, QBR of 124.
Hey, man, fuck the 2 picks. If he can put up 469
if you can throw
yards,
for 6
touchdowns,
touchdowns, you can throw as many fucking
yeah.
picks as you want. Point blank, period. I said this all off season. Miami's offense is fucking for real. Tua Tagovailoa now has the weapons to look like Alabama Tua Tagovailoa. That's what we saw yesterday. It was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. This is why I wanted to draft Tua in fantasy, and fucking Bruce listened to my advice and took him before I could. And it was awesome.
But I fucked
What's
up.
even better is he didn't play him.
Yeah,
He didn't fucking play him.
So,
On the other hand, Lamar Jackson was indeed a highlight reel. It sucks that he was slightly overshadowed by Tua, but
I don't see how.
21
for
for
4 touchdowns and ran for 1.
21 for 29, 318 yards, 3 touchdowns, 9 rushes, 119 yards, 1 touchdown, and a fumble for Lamar Jackson. It didn't really matter who won that game. It was going to be a highlight reel.
Yes.
The biggest problem that I saw from this game was, number one,
The Ravens can't run the football.
the Ravens cannot, you took the words out of my mouth, the Ravens cannot run the football. They need to get a running back healthy.
They do.
They need to get a running back healthy. Rashad Bateman, Mark Andrews both had great games. Bateman, 4 receptions for 108 yards and
Duvernay,
a
again.
75-yard touchdown. Mark Andrews, 9 for 11, 104-1. And Duvernay took back the opening. They started the game with an absolute bang, fucking fireworks show. Duvernay, 101-yard touchdown return to start the game. This was the most exciting football game that I've watched in a long time. It was fun.
It was. What was really weird about it is both of those defenses are pretty stout, and they could not stop each other.
Yeah, they're both offenses are so potent. They're so okay. Here's the difference, though. Tua needs the supporting cast to get it done. Okay,
Correct.
let's talk about the Dolphins' stat lines here real quick. Obviously, Tua, 36 for 50, 469 yards, 6 touchdowns. Great. Miami didn't really run the ball much either. Mozart had 11 carries for 51 yards. Chase Edmonds, 5 for 33. But Tyreek Hill, 11 for 13, 190 and 2. Jalen Waddle, 11 for 19, 171 and 2. Even Mike Gesicki got in the party, 4 for 4, 41 and a touchdown. It was a slew. I mean,
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are the most potent wide receiving duo in football, period. And Tua has that. And nobody talks about how good Tua Tagovailoa was. Everybody seems to forget what he did at Alabama. He was Trevor Lawrence before Trevor Lawrence. He was Joe Burrow before Joe Burrow.
Here's the thing with Tua. The injuries absolutely smashed his draft stock.
Absolutely.
The injury, they were afraid. He had injuries throughout his college career and going into the pros. He was not healthy, and they knew that. And I think that's why his stock dropped. But he showed one thing that he did show in college, and you give him time to throw, he's accurate.
Oh, yeah.
He's accurate.
And I will say that Miami's offensive line looked good yesterday.
That's because they were throwing those short slants. And
That's true. I mean,
it's just the speed kills.
he spread the
speed
ball
kills.
everywhere. Yeah, Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill
that-
equals
are you
speed
kidding
kills.
me? Every time they touch the ball, they're a threat.
Well, we weren't right on the over-under, but we were right on the win. The Atlanta Falcons went into SoFi Stadium as 10-point underdogs and made a great game of it.
They come up a little short at the
A
end.
little short, 17 fourth quarter points, made the final score 31-27 in favor of the Rams. And here's another, I was rooting for the Falcons all day.
Of course you were.
I'll be honest with you.
Mariota played his ass off.
Mariota, I mean, he did everything he could. He ended up with, he got sacked 3 times, 2 picks, but he also had 2 touchdown passes, 196 yards. Not the best game. And honestly, Cordero, nobody really had that great of a game for them outside of Drake London. Drake London had it was a great weekend for rookie wide receivers. I'll say that much.
Yeah.
It really was.
So much for him being injury prone, right?
Who?
Drake London.
It's week 2, Bruce.
Yeah,
No.
week 2.
But
Jalen Ramsey.
making it work.
He didn't play the whole preseason.
He's making it work.
Jalen Ramsey ultimately picked off Mariota with,
With the ball that was thrown a little high
yeah.
at the end there. He'd have had that ball down and in where it should have been. That'd have been a touchdown.
It would have been a touchdown. And you know what? He just hopped up right on him, right over. God, who was there for that pass? Jalen Ramsey essentially jumped 3 feet in the air and grabbed the ball right out of the receiver's hands. I don't remember who he snatched it from.
Yeah, he came right over his back and snatched
He
it.
did, and it was a heartbreaking moment. And of course, Jalen Ramsey's now being praised as the best cornerback in the world again.
Oh, God.
But the Rams did something kind of interesting. They took an intentional safety.
That almost come back to bite them at the end. It really did.
They went to punt, called a timeout with 13 seconds left, took the ball and ran it out of the back of the end zone. And ended up going down, only being up by 5 points after that, which I didn't really.
So then they tried to kick the ball off with the punt and punt it out of bounds, and they get it at the 50.
Right,
Atlanta gets it at the 50.
correct. And I don't know if that was to avoid them.
I don't know either. I mean, do you have that little faith in your defense that is the strength of your team?
Well, ultimately,
And that's just kind of odd to me.
after they did the free kick, Mariota got sack strip fumbled, and Aaron Donald recovered it, and that was the end of the game. But Atlanta, as a 10-point underdog against the defending Super Bowl champions, took them literally to the last 2 minutes. And
Seconds.
to the last seconds of this game. Mariota didn't play that well. Cordell Patterson didn't run that well, but they were still in this game. And that
They made plays when they had to at the end of it.
they did. The Rams defense in the fourth
And
quarter.
say what you want to say, the Falcons defense actually played pretty well within the last 2 minutes of
I'll
that
say
game.
after the half, the Falcons defense made some adjustments and got it together.
Right.
Because up until then, this game was a blowout. Essentially, it was 21-3 at the half. You know, how many games this weekend were blowouts at the half and ended up coming right down to?
Yeah.
I mean, it was a great weekend of football. But what concerned me for the Rams is that their offense just didn't look that.
They're just not. Well, your Allen Robinson came to life.
Allen Robinson actually caught it balls.
And Cream Akers had a nice little
Cream
stint.
Akers. Got his 15 rushes for 44 yards, a whopping 2.9 average.
There you go.
Darrell Henderson, 10 rushes for 47 yards and a tud. I think he's now really solidifying himself as the number one guy there,
He should be.
unfortunately for Bruce.
I haven't played him, so
Matthew, 27 on 36 for 272 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks, and he was sacked once. Cooper Kupp,
Do you notice a trend going with him?
he's slowly regressing back to Honolulu blue and silver.
2 turnovers a game.
2
That's
turnovers.
what he's known for.
Yeah, I mean he was pretty much on pace for that last year
him.
too. Tyler
Making
Higbee
it
had
work,
himself
though.
a nice little game again. 7 for 9, 71 yards. Cooper Kupp 11 for 14, 108 yards and 2 touchdowns. I'll say this much: if Cooper Kupp doesn't have a game where he plays the entire game and doesn't get 100 yards and doesn't get 2
The
touchdowns,
Rams are done.
the Rams are fucking done for. The Rams just didn't look inspiring again for some reason. I don't know why.
I think they took that game likely, to be honest with
I
you.
think
And
they
I
did
think they
too.
got lucky that they came away with a win.
Yeah. I honestly,
They could have been starting out 0-2 right now.
yeah, they really could be. They really could be. Let me go to my notes here real quick. Down to the Seahawks 49ers game. Not only did Trey Lance look lackluster, he got injured. He broke his ankle, and he will be out for the year, which means Jimmy G is back in the saddle for the 49ers. And
Knew it would happen.
We called it here last
it.
week when I said, if this guy gets hurt, that's the only way he's coming out, because they've invested into him. They're invested into him. Garoppolo was left in the wind.
yep.
I still think they're lying about any kind of offer. I just think they wanted too much, and they weren't going to get it. And now they're going to have to show him the money, and then show him the. I don't know. I don't know.
I think
I don't know
they're
what
definitely
to do at
better
this
for
point.
it.
I mean, he came in, and it's a different team.
It's a different
It's a different team that played last week.
Yep.
And it's a different team that was started that game. They started flat. They were erratic. They weren't in any kind of rhythm at all. And Garoppolo comes in, gets them into rhythm, and they pull out a tough win. And
The
they
game was
look
over
good
at the
doing
half.
it.
The game was over at the half with Garoppolo playing.
Correct.
Game was over at the fucking half. The 49ers looked like they should. With that roster, that talented of a roster, that
And
good
with
of a
two
team.
backup running backs.
Correct. With no run game outside of Deebo Samuel and Jeff fucking Wilson, they came in and they handed a shellacking to the Seattle Seahawks. That they should have. Period. They should have won that game the way they did. That game with those two teams should have been over at the half. If Trey Lance played that game, the game would not have been over by the half. It's very easy to figure out that Jimmy Garoppolo is a better quarterback whose team would rather play
See how
for him.
excited his teammates were?
Yes, everybody's hugging it.
Everybody
it
was
like,
hugging this guy. They were
looked
the
like a
crowd
fucking
was
Italian wedding on the sideline when Garoppolo went in. It was cheek kisses and handshakes.
It was something else.
It was fucking yeah. It almost got kind of homosexual
what
there for a
point-
minute.
At what
Ma, grab the gabagoo.
you draft these young quarterbacks, unproven quarterbacks, and you got a guy that is the guy, but you want to get off cheap and basically slide him to the side and bring in the other guy that's
So who's
that's
the
more
asshole?
economically.
Shanahan or the general manager?
Both. I hope Jimmy Garoppolo at the end of this year,
John Lynch is going to have to absolutely
he's
blow
going to
him
have to
get him to
he's
stay
going
on
have
this
to
team.
rim Jimmy Garoppolo to
Yes.
get him to even consider an offer. Because if I was Jimmy Garoppolo, because he's got to play all year now, Trey Lance out for the
Right.
season, broken ankle, done for. If I was Jimmy Garoppolo, I would literally moon both John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan on my way out the door this year and tell both of them to go fuck themselves. Because I got news
Yeah.
for you. After Garoppolo will come in, they will win a bunch of games. They will probably make the playoffs.
possibly win their division.
Possibly win that division if the Rams don't turn it around a little bit and make a deep playoff run. Probably lose to the Buccaneers, but Jimmy Garoppolo after that should tell everybody in San Francisco to go fuck their hand because he will get a starting offer somewhere. He will.
Yes.
He will.
Oh yeah.
As for the Seahawks, they came back down to reality. Geno
Well, guess
Smith-
what? The reality was this. They got lucky that Denver turned the ball over twice inside the 5-yard line last week.
Yes, they did.
They got real lucky because that game would have been a blowout.
To be honest, I mean, week one had us all turning our heads. But
Yeah,
week 2 is kind of gelling to kind of where we were all
Week 2
saying it
now,
was gonna
everybody's in the role a little bit. You kind of see what's going to happen. I agree with that.
Well, you knew these teams that lost last week were going to come back hard this week. We knew that. We knew that.
We did. But Seattle looked exactly how we expected them. Geno Smith, 24 for 30, 197 yards, no touchdowns, a pick, and 2 sacks. Honestly, not a horrific performance, but they really couldn't get any offense going whatsoever. They had no run game against the 49ers front. Rashad Penny, 6 rushes for 15. Kenneth Walker, 4 rushes for 10. And it just gets worse from there. The only real receiving target was Tyler Lockett, 9 for 11 for 107 yards. It was
good to see him getting the ball.
I always seen Metcalf catch
4 for 6
ball.
for 35 yards. He had his longest pass was a 12-yard. Noah Fant ineffective. Nobody at Will Dissly ineffective. It was a rough day for the Seahawks. They got manhandled. Game, like I said, at the half, this game was over. It was 20-0 at halftime. So, 27-7 final in favor of the 49ers in a exclamation point welcome back for Jimmy Garoppolo. The next game we have to talk about was my biggest whiff of the week. I believe my exact words on this show were the Bengals will probably beat the Cowboys by 21. And my God, was I wrong.
I was wrong too.
We were both wrong. The Bengals lose to the Cowboys in Dallas 20-7. Put your fucking arms down. Pull Cooper Rush's dog out of your fucking mouth.
No, Cooper Rush. I think he played
At the end of the day,
played like Cooper Rush.
At the end of the day, there's an issue with the Bengals. They rebuilt this in honestly, now you sit here and
you know what?
That offensive line is
here's
the
the
best
thing.
offensive line now.
Here's
supposed
the thing.
to be.
He got sacked 7 times last week.
He got sacked 6 times this week. 6.
This week? Last week he got sacked 7 times.
Okay, here's the issue now. And this is what I'm starting to think about. Week 1, we look at that. Oh, wow, they went out and spent $70 million on their offensive line. Brought in all pro guys to play that offensive line. Oh, they got to be better, right? If you put talent,
they're not.
You're going to be better. I don't know about that anymore. This is starting to feel like a Joe Burrow problem now, because it's
At what point is he hanging on to the ball too much?
Right, and that's almost where I'm at. He got sacked 6 times yesterday. He got sacked 7 times in week 1. He got sacked 7 times in the Super Bowl. All you see is Joe Burrow on his fucking back. So now, after last year, they go out and they get 3 all Pro Bowl offensive linemen, and he is still getting shellacked. I think this is starting to become a Joe Burrow problem. This is starting to be he knows he can run if he needs to, and maybe the receivers aren't getting the separation or he's just simply holding on to the ball too long, but it's a problem. It's a big problem. The Bengals are 0-2 after winning the AFC last year, and they lost to a subpar Pittsburgh team and a Cowboys team without Dak Prescott.
I mean, the Patriots beat
the Patriots. The fuck Patriots beat Pittsburgh this week by a field goal. This is, I think now we have to look at Burrow and start to, and I hate saying that Bruce is right, but Bruce said that Joe Burrow had something to prove with the Bengals last week, and I guess he did, because this is starting to look like an issue now. And it doesn't look like an issue that's going to get any better. And Joe Mixon couldn't get anything going behind that offensive line either. He was 19 rushes, 57 yards.
I mean, come on, dude.
That's
it's
not
a real
that great of a
problem when the
performance.
Detroit Lions
Joe
offensive
Mixon?
line looks better.
That's offensive line.
That's all that you have to blame on the offensive line. So maybe it's offensive linemen's not understanding the assignment or a coaching issue or something. But Burrow was 24 for 36, 199 yards and a touchdown and 6 sacks. Like, my God.
Oh, Dallas's defense is a little underrated. They're a little underrated.
I get that.
And if anything, I thought the offense of Dallas was going to be their Achilles heel.
And it wasn't.
But I'll tell you what, they looked a lot better with Cooper Rush than they did with Dak Prescott.
Well, I expected a big
now, I don't
game.
know if that's just me.
I expected a big game out
I
of
don't
Zeke.
know, there's a couple. I feel like
Well, you know what? They
if
weren't
Dak was
really.
in there, it
They
would've been
weren't
a
really
different result.
turning to Zeke, and it's
No.
here we go again. What am I going to say right now? Mike McCarthy, what the fuck are you doing?
You know what? I would love to just see them hand the ball off to Zeke 25 times in one
I
game
would
and see what happens.
I would
Why
give him the
not?
ball 30 times
Well,
a game.
Why not?
I would run the wheels right off of
Yeah.
it.
As it goes right now, he's definitely keeping his job.
Who?
Mike McCarthy.
I don't know
Skinny
about
his
that.
fucking-
I don't know about
I don't
that.
know. I think
I'm
as
going to be
long as
honest
there's a-
with you.
there's a
If
dub,
they
yeah.
would have lost this fucking game, I got a feeling he'd have been gone tomorrow.
I agree. Because Jerry Jones
Probably.
put CeeDee Lamb on blast last week.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody caught that, but Jerry Jones said CeeDee Lamb needs more out of him.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he wasn't very happy with his 7 reception, 75-yard performance this week, especially when
Now, is it Kellen Moore? Is it Kellen Moore calling the plays?
I don't think so.
I don't know. I don't know.
Noah
Is it Kellen
Brown.
Moore or is it Mike McCarthy?
Noah Brown was the leading receiver for the Cowboys.
Well, that's because that's the only guy that Cooper Rush throws to.
yeah.
Going on the
Fucking
internet and
fourth string receiver.
seeing what people are saying about Dallas, it seems like a lot of people in Dallas just hate Jerry Jones.
Listen, the guy's owned the team since 1984, dude.
They are not
Guess
happy
what?
with him.
Guess what, dude? Guess what? He's won fucking Super Bowls, dude. So is them not happy with him?
He hasn't won a Super Bowl in most of the current fans' lifespan.
Listen to me. I don't give a fuck. He won 3 Super Bowls. What do you want to say? That's not on him.
Guess what? What can you do for me now?
What
And
can
Jerry
he
Jones
do?
can't put a winning team
Here's
on the
Clearly,
what
things
Jerry
need
Jones
to
needs
change.
do. Fire Mike McCarthy. Go to Jimmy Johnson. Stroke Jimmy Johnson's huge cack because he takes all those enhancers and beg him to come back. Beg him to come back to coaching.
Guess what? Ultimately, what's going to happen is did the Cowboys win this week 20-17 against a disgruntled Bengals team? Yes.
Yes.
Ultimately, what's going to happen is it ain't going to last. I mean,
They'll go 500 this
yeah.
year.
We know
They
how
won't
the
even
Cowboys-
win their fucking division, and then Mike McCarthy should be gone.
the Cowboys at the New York Giants next week. That's going to be a tough game. Their schedule is not easy. Again, I think by the end of October, Mike McCarthy will be gone.
Hopefully.
And then all the rumors about Sean Payton will start, and it'll be just a circus in Dallas this year.
I seen Sean Payton on the pre-shows and after in between shows, and he looks pretty fucking happy that he's not coaching.
Yeah, but guess what? Jerry Jones might open that wallet and say, hey,
Yeah.
come on down here. and
Who
play with
would
us.
say no?
Exactly.
Who would say no to a $10 million offer to come and coach Cowboys?
Go coach the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about those Cowboys?
That's it.
Everybody
Oh, God.
misses that.
Next thing you know, the freaking Lions are going to be scrimmaging Dallas every year.
Anyway,
Okay.
Well, because
This
Sean Payton and Dan Campbell.
So we've talked about the ugliest game of the week. We've talked about the best game of the week. We talked about the most boring game of the week. This was the most concerning game of the week for me. The Houston Texans went into Mile High and gave the Denver Broncos and Russell Wilson everything they had. And the Broncos somehow scraped out a win with a late touchdown to win 16-9.
oh, I think Russell Wilson decided he wasn't going to let the young coaching
Couldn't get embarrassed
errors,
again.
The young coaching errors happen again.
There's something up with this team. There's something up with this Denver Broncos team. I don't know if it's the coaches. I don't know if it's Russ. I don't know if it's the two aren't meshing. I don't know. And I mean, they lost 2 guys early in Jerry Jeudy and Patrick Surtain, both to injury, who are both day-to-day at this point now. I mean, Javonte Williams had a pretty good day, 15 for 75. Melvin Gordon, 10 for 47. Cortland Sutton, 7 for 122. Something just ain't clicking because the Broncos are way more talented on both sides of the ball.
I think it's going to take time for them to gel. I
It's-
really do.
I mean, this season,
It's almost like, you know what it looks like? It looks like they didn't even go to training camp this year.
No, it doesn't. They're not playing in any sort of uniformity. And that's concerning to see because there was so much hope for this team.
Yeah.
And yes, they got the win this week, but like it's at like what expense? You almost got embarrassed at home by.
I think the Texans are a little better than what people think.
Oh, Jesus,
I really
God
do.
in heaven.
Listen, they played a great game last week. They let it get away from them. They should have won it instead of tying.
Well, no, I mean, you can't even really say that because as we saw.
I like Lovey Smith.
Look at
I don't,
Indianapolis.
I don't care.
No more. There's no bigger dumpster fire in the NFL right now than the Indianapolis Colts. We'll talk about that in a second. But yes, the Texans tied with them last week and then come in here and Russell Wilson had to sell his soul to the devil to win this
Just
game.
to win it.
I
And
mean,
hit a backup tight end out of nowhere.
yeah, out of fucking nowhere. I mean, Davis Mills, 50% passing, 177 yards. Got sacked 3 times. Damian Pierce, I guess you could say, was
nobody
the
could do
highlight.
anything but Nico Collins. He was the only guy
Nico
doing
Collins,
anything.
4 receptions, 58 yards. Brendan Cooks, 4 receptions, 54 yards.
Yeah.
Damian Pierce, 15 rushes for 70 yards. They're fucking bad. The Texans are a bad team.
The offensive line I thought would be a little bit better.
Yeah, it ain't. It ain't. The biggest
They're
question
going to need
here-
time.
The biggest question for me here is the Broncos have played the Seahawks, who are bad, and lost, and played
the
the
Texans.
Texans, who are bad, and were
Barely won.
Scraped to win.
scraped a win out. So, are the Broncos bad? Because on paper they shouldn't be.
Right.
But everything we have seen so far is that
What I'm afraid of is I'm afraid to see them play Kansas City or
Yeah,
the Chargers.
yeah.
They're going to get their asses handed to them.
yeah. When does Denver play Kansas City? They got to play an in-division opponent. They play San Francisco this week.
That'll
Denver
be a
plays
test of
San
where they're
Francisco.
at.
Yeah.
Yes, at Mile High, and then they go to Vegas, and they're home against Indy.
That's not an easy game for
No,
them.
and then they're at the Chargers. So
They have a 3-game stretch here where they could lose all 3
3 of their
games.
next 4 they could lose.
So they could be 1-4 after the next few weeks.
And I mean, people in Denver will be calling for Russell Wilson's fucking head, and people will be coronating the scumbag Pete Carroll. That's all I have to say about that one.
Anyway,
In probably the most thrilling game of the week, overtime between the Cardinals and the Raiders. This game was another one that we thought was
I thought
Put
the Raiders
away?
had it in control.
it was 20-0 going into the half, and Kyler Murray willed the Cardinals. Well, let's say this. The Cardinals defense only allowed 3 points in the second half. They stepped up.
That was huge. J.J. Watt kind of reemerged, and I seen he went back to playing his defensive end spot rather than playing that tackle spot, and that changed his game immediately. He had a sack early in that game when it first started.
I'll say this.
He only had 2.
Hunter Renfrow fumbled the fucking game away. Fumbled twice in overtime.
Yes,
You know,
it's tough.
when you are that complimentary receiver that Hunter Renfrow is, you need to do your role well. You need to be Wes Welker and Julian
Well,
Edelman.
and his defense, he got hammered both times. It was not like he did not get hammered. My man got hammered there,
I
especially
agree.
in overtime.
I agree. Devontae Adams was completely ineffective yesterday. 2 receptions on 7 targets for 12 yards, one of which was a touchdown. I mean, Derek Carr was okay. 25 for 39, 252 yards, 2 tuds. He was only sacked once. Josh Jacobs, 19 rushes for 69 yards. That's putrid. Like, nobody really stepped up for them yesterday, but the game was over.
Their defense was playing very well early.
Yes, and Kyler
Max
Murray.
Crosby had 2 or 3 sacks. I think he had 2 for sure. He had 2 sacks early in that game, and they were controlling the game. And then I don't know what happened.
Max Crosby had
The
1
turnovers
sack for a
destroyed.
7-yard loss. That was Max Crosby accumulated the only sack of the game, it looks like. I mean,
I thought he had
J.J.
2.
Watt also had a sack for the Cardinals, so there's 2 sacks in the game. But James Conner went down early with an ankle injury. Again, nobody
that
really
hurts.
ran the ball all that much. You know, Benjamin got a few. I mean, Zach Ertz led the game in receiving. 8 receptions on 11 targets for 75
This kid
yards.
has nobody to throw to.
Yeah, but what happened?
A.J. Green.
A.J. Green saved the game for him.
Ghost of A.J. Green at the end zone line made a huge 2-point conversion.
Yep.
And
Sealed
basically
the
won it.
overtime. Yeah, they did. Kyler Murray stepped up when he had to yesterday. That's what I will say.
You got to call out Arizona's offensive line there.
I'll say that much.
Dude had a shit ton of time.
Well, listen, he moves around so much.
Yeah,
but when they did the overhead view, everyone was blocked.
Yes,
everyone was blocked.
They showed it was the stopwatch, and Kyler Murray had like 8 or 9 seconds to sit behind the line of scrimmage.
Well, that one play was 18 seconds.
Yeah.
That he was running around.
Yes. At the end of the day, from what I saw yesterday, the Cardinals confused me because Kansas City stomped them week 1. And yesterday,
it tells you how good Kansas City is.
It looks like they got it together a little bit, and I'm kind of starting to see the tide turn a little bit because I thought Vegas played pretty. I mean, nobody stepped up for him. Nobody stepped up, and Devontae Adams was completely ineffective, and they still had that game won at the half.
Yeah.
It was 20-0 at the half.
I think they took their foot off the gas, and it came back to haunt them. That's usually what happens to these teams. They jump out to a lead. And then I think the same thing happened to the Ravens. The same thing happened to the Lions.
It did.
The same thing. The Rams, that same thing. These guys get out to these leads, and then they coast. And the minute they coast, a couple of turnovers, and then they're all fucking scratching their heads, and they're not able to rebound.
That's why you need to have.
That's what happened to the Cleveland Browns.
You got to keep your foot on the gas, man. You got to keep your foot on the
especially in the league now.
Yep.
Especially in this league now.
And I'll say that's why I'm kind of proud that the Lions pulled that W out yesterday.
I am too.
We saw a bunch of fucking teams who had their games won at the half.
How many years have we seen the Lions play in close games and absolutely lose it at the fucking end?
Well, like Dan Campbell said, though, that the defense was getting a little gassed, but the offense came out and had to step up and answer.
Yeah, and they did.
Correct.
They did.
And they did.
But you know
that's what you have to have that balance.
When you're up 22 to nothing, when you're up 22 to nothing, and you let your foot off the gas, once that other team gets a taste of the end zone, then you're in trouble.
You're right.
Because it's hard to get that intensity back up. The intensity that you had early to get that lead, and once you let that go, and these guys start to coast a little bit, we're up big, that's when that shit happens.
So 2 huge surprises. Surprise number 1. Daniel Jones and the New York Giants are 2-0.
Have you watched the 2 games that they have played?
I have.
I'm going to tell you something right now. I think they're playing with a purpose. I think the coach there is got these guys focused.
I mean, you have a healthy Saquon Barkley.
That is true.
Well, I mean, it helps. It obviously helps having him. He's a freaking monster.
But he did not have that great of a day.
No, he didn't.
No.
21 rushes, 72 yards. He only averaged 3.5 yards per carry.
But he was running hard, and it kept the defense honest. It kept them off of Daniel Jones.
Mm-hmm. Kenny Golladay is still a ghost. He didn't even record a stat line. But I'll say this. Daniel Jones went 22 on 34, 176 yards, a touchdown. He was sacked 3 times. But he spread the ball around nice. Richie James Jr., Sterling Shepard, they all got involved in catching the ball. It was ugly, but I feel like most of these Giants games probably will be because they don't really have a superstar or even like a star receiver, I would say. But he spread the ball around well. Baker Mayfield is just shit. He's shit.
You know what? We thought that he was going to be resurrected there. He had a big game last week, and they lost. And I don't see, and I can't give you a explanation for it. You have arguably probably one of the best running backs in the league. You have a nice game. You have a decent receiving core there. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're not totally inept.
No, but they're pretty goddamn close.
Baker is just.
I
think he's back to where everything's on his shoulders again. And he needs to just play within the game instead of fucking trying
he
to
did.
do
I mean,
too
he
much.
did get there kind of late.
Baker, 14 for 29, so 48% passing, 145 yards, a touchdown, sacked twice, QBR of 74. McCaffrey had a Christian McCaffrey game. 15 rushes, 102 yards, averaged 6.8 per carry, and as far as receiving the ball, he was 4 for 5 for 26. That is a perfect Christian McCaffrey stat line, essentially, just missing a touchdown
And
somewhere.
let me tell you something. Normally, when a guy's got those kind of numbers, you win.
Right.
When you have a running back that has that kind of numbers,
You win the game. The problem was DJ Moore, 3 receptions, 43 yards. Robbie Anderson, 3 receptions, 32 yards. They're
Worst pickup. ever.
terrible throwing the football right now. Baker Mayfield is not getting the job done. And I mean,
and I you can't blame all Baker on that. The offensive line has to obviously play better.
I get that, but how bad must Sam Darnold be?
Well, you know, they were fucking 6-0 with Sam Darnold, so I don't know what to tell you here.
I don't
But
either.
the defense was playing at an elite level last year. They're not this year. Brian Burns is playing his ass off.
He is.
But
He is.
I mean, the guys that you would expect to step up are not doing it right now.
I mean, that game was just ugly as well.
Yes.
But the Giants ultimately get a dub, 19-16.
And who would have thought the
over
Giants would be
Panthers.
2-0? I mean,
I didn't.
God bless them.
I thought the Giants would be one of the 2 worst teams in football, and they're not. They're not. They are showing.
They have talent on that team. They have.
You know what
young
they remind
talent.
me of? You want to know what they kind of remind me of? The Giants team that beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl. They don't have any
I don't
stars.
think Daniel Jones is as good as
I don't think Daniel
Eli
Jones
Manning
is
at
good as
that
Eli
point.
Manning, but the makeup of that team is just
Yes, it does remind me of that.
ugly and
They had
gut out
a
wins
veteran
and-
quarterback
yeah.
with a bunch of young guys
Yeah.
around him.
And surprise number 2, I'll go back to the notes. Colts versus Jaguars will probably be a dumpster fire. Would probably stay away from. Blowout could happen either way, but I'll take the Jags. That is what my notes say on
And
this
we all
game.
took the Jags.
And we
Oh,
all
man.
took the Jags, and the Jaguars fucking stomped the Indianapolis Colts.
Shut 'em out, man.
24-0.
And I'll tell you
My
what, I was
God.
very impressed with Trevor Lawrence.
Trevor Lawrence had his first memorable game as a starting quarterback in the NFL.
Yes.
Yes.
This is like his rookie. This is his
coming
rookie
out party.
debut.
Yep. Trevor Lawrence, 25 for 30, 83% passing, 235 yards, 2 tuds, no interceptions, no sacks,
Damn, a QBR
No
of
fumbles.
129.
129 QBR. James Robinson, 23 for 64. Average was shit, but got the touchdown. Travis Etienne did not look good at all. 9 for 20, 2.2 yards rushing. Didn't matter. They didn't need it. They got the job done. Their defense played absolutely fucking lights out. They played the way we expected that Jacksonville roster to play. That defense has a great makeup, a great base of guys, and they played extremely well.
I mean,
Josh Allen was exceptional again.
Yes.
Shout
Two
out to the
sacks out of
rookie
Josh
Devin
Allen.
Lloyd.
Arden Key had a sack yesterday. There
Correct.
you go. There's your boy.
You know what? They got him playing tackle and pass wrestling situations. He's a defensive end playing defensive tackle.
It's working. On the other side of the ball, this is why I went on and on and on about how I hated what Indianapolis does. I hated the Matt Ryan signing. Matt Ryan's washed. Indianapolis is inept. I said all of these things. And Matt Ryan, 16 for 30, 195 yards, 3 picks, and 5 fucking sacks. Jonathan
they
Taylor
got
didn't
you.
even play well.
I know.
9 rushes for 54 yards. I mean, Ashton Doolin, shout out to Jack. Ashton fucking Doolin led the team in receiving. 7 targets, 5 receptions, 75 yards. My God.
Is
Like,
Michael
my
Pittman their most valuable player?
Oh, by
Absolutely.
Well, no, Jonathan Taylor is the
well,
most valuable.
I don't know about that.
No, he is. He is. Don't get it twisted. He is. But
Jonathan Taylor had 60 yards.
yes, but it's got to be. Matt Ryan got sacked 5 times. There's an issue with the offensive line. I'm not
Yes.
going to put that. We know what Jonathan Taylor's
And
capable of. I'm
that
not
was
putting that
actually
on
a
his
strength of the Colts. the
Yes,
last
and
few
it's
years.
just not now.
They're lying on offense and defense.
Because everything's on
The
his
defense
back.
hasn't played well either.
I mean, my God, the Colts don't look like they're
Shaq
gonna win.
Leonard, is
still out.
he's still out.
Still out.
And that's the heart and soul of their team right there.
Yeah, but I mean, the fucking Colts, I mean, they don't look like they're going to win a game right now. They are in trouble. They need to
Yes.
get guys healthy. They need to get Pittman back. They need to get Shaq Leonard back. I don't know if they have any injuries on the offensive line, but if they do, I mean, they need to get these guys back like
Yesterday?
fucking pronto. But I mean, it's rough right now. to
Yeah,
beat Colts.
they've looked. I think the only time I've seen them look as bad as they do right now is the year Peyton Manning wasn't there.
Yeah.
When he got hurt. Remember when he hurt his neck and he was out and they won one game? That's what they look like right now.
Now, I was thinking about this. We saw how well Carson Wentz has played the first 2 weeks, and it's pretty fucking well. Maybe Carson Wentz was never the fucking issue in Indy.
Maybe not.
Maybe it was just the team, the
Well,
atmosphere.
they got a
the
new coach now.
culture.
Reich is the new coach.
Yeah, what a disappointment up at
And Frank Reich is a very good coach. He's a good, let me rephrase this. Frank Reich is a very good quarterback coach to bring guys in.
Well,
That's what he
goddamn.
did with Philadelphia when they won a Super Bowl. He was the quarterback coach. He was the one working with Carson Wentz and with
Yeah, but
it's just
timeout.
it just
You have had none of these quarterbacks are terrible. Carson Wentz, Phillip Rivers, and Matt Ryan.
yes.
And you can't figure it the fuck out?
I think the issue is the offensive line.
I think the issue is something deeper than that.
You
There's
think it's
gotta
Frank
be-
Reich?
I think it's a culture issue, it's a coaching issue, it's a something issue because
Right.
this
Usually when it's this bad,
You can't take a
team-
team
it's
that
deep.
good.
yes, a team
just
this talented should
destroy
not
'em
be
in
that
3
fucking
years.
bad. Correct. They shouldn't be. And I get it. They don't have a lot of receiving depth outside of Michael Pittman, which is an
Right.
issue that they created on their own by not attempting to get anybody outside of
Well,
Ashton Dulin and Paris Campbell.
they have drafted receivers, but none of them have panned out.
You got to go out and get
I mean, other
somebody.
than they haven't had since Michael Pittman. I think I don't. They had that Pascal cat.
Zach Pascal.
I don't know, dude.
Well, you got
Hilton.
Doolin. You went out and got
Yeah.
guys.
It's not like
go
they
out and get the
didn't get
right
any.
guys.
Were you going
man.
to say the last guy known was T.Y. Hilton? Is that what you were going to say?
It's the last guy that's been any good there.
Yeah.
Beside Michael Pittman.
Yeah.
I mean, T.Y. Hilton was from a former regime. It was more from the team that was actually decent there at one point.
Right.
You know, but what do you do? At this point, what do you do? If you're Jim Irsay, and I know he likes to drink, and I'm sure he's fucking cracking the bottle every day, I know I would be, he should be fucking hammered right now.
I would be fucking A.
I would be getting
Pouring
drunk
out
at
for
every
Jim
game.
Irsay. God damn. Okay. The final game of the week to discuss was the Sunday night football matchup between the Green Bay Packers and the Chicago Bears, where I will preface by saying the ball crossed the fucking plane. It did. I don't know how New York missed that angle. The ball crossed the plane. It did. That was a Justin Fields rushing touchdown. They took it from him. They didn't call it a touchdown on the field. That ball crossed the plane. You could see it clear as fucking day. And there wasn't enough video evidence.
No, come on. He blew the pylon out.
No.
Damn it.
No.
I should have stayed awake.
It was at that corner of the end zone where he dove.
No. The quarterback sneak out of the shotgun, which
Oh,
was
yeah.
fucking stupid.
Yeah,
Why
that was
you're
a-
running a QB sneak out of the shotgun, I don't know. But
That was stupid.
he couldn't really reach out for it because there's so many guys in front of him. But from the angle they showed on TV, he crossed the fucking line. And they said, oh, because there were so many arms in front of it, you couldn't tell what was the ball and what wasn't if it broke the plane. The fucking ball broke the plane. It was a fucking touchdown. In the grand scheme of things, did it matter all that much?
No.
No. But I'll say this. I didn't think the Bears played that bad of a game. I thought
They got gashed on the ground. They got gashed.
well,
say
I'll
one
tell
thing?
you what. The Bears got gashed
You
on the
don't
ground.
see the Bears get gashed like that.
Can I say one thing?
Go.
fuck you for thinking A.J. Dillon's going to take that leading role.
Oh, he'll take that. He'll
no, he
take that
won't.
role.
No, he won't.
Watch next year. Watch.
132 yards.
Listen to me. When you start paying running backs fucking money like they're paying their guy there now, he's not going to be there long.
Dude, every
The
time
same
he touched
thing
the
happened
ball,
to
it was for,
Le'Veon
like,
Bell. The same thing happened. Go down the line, dude. I'm telling
Pause.
you right now.
Justin Fields did not fucking throw the ball well at all. It was the
doesn't.
roughest quarterback performance of the weekend. 11 throws, 7 completions, 70 yards, a pick. He was sacked 3 times. He ran the ball 8 times for 20 yards and a touchdown and a fumble. Fields looked rough. The Bears ran the ball exceptionally well. The Packers
David
ran
Montgomery.
the ball exceptionally well. I'll say this much. We'll see if Minnesota can keep it up tonight, but between the Lions running the ball, the Packers running the ball, and the Bears running the ball, this group of NFC North running backs and the offensive lines and the way these teams are running the football is exceptional. And I'll tell you what, it will open doors for whichever team can pull away in this division going forward, because you're not seeing any other teams run the ball nearly as well as they are in the NFC North.
You just saying that gave me goosebumps because it's exciting.
It is.
It's exciting.
Let's talk. Aaron Jones, 15 rushes, 132 yards, and a touchdown. My God. A.J. Dillon, 18 rushes for 61 yards. He only averaged 3.4 per carry, but he was...
But did you see here's the difference in that. And if you watch the game, you'll know what I'm talking about.
I was in and out.
When Aaron Jones, I'm sorry?
I was in and out. I when I got home, I was tired as hell. I only got 4 hours of sleep.
Anyway.
And every time I wake up, I put
Here's the reason why Aaron Jones had all the yards. They were running that counter play where they were pulling the guards and the centers and getting them outside.
You can sit here and sell me that Aaron Jones
Dillon
isn't
was
good all
running
you
the
want.
ball in the gut.
Aaron Jones can run the ball extremely fucking well.
Absolutely.
They
he
have
can.
one of the best 1-2 punches in the NFL.
Right.
And if they get rid of Aaron Jones, they're fucking stupid because the guy is extremely talented. Is A.J. Dillon also talented? Yes. Both of them can catch the ball well. Both of them can run the ball well.
No, I'll say that I was not.
It's the
throwing
only thing
shade
I've
at
seen
A.J.
that Green
Dillon.
Bay had
I'm
going.
just saying that Aaron Jones has proven that he's clearly the guy.
On the other hand, David Montgomery and Khalil Herbert. David Montgomery had 15 rushes for 122 yards. Khalil Herbert, 4 rushes for 38 yards. Both were very, very effective.
Yeah.
That's with Justin Fields also running the ball 8 times. As far as receiving goes, the Bears only had 70 yards of passing offense, so
You're not going to win in this
there's
league.
no fucking stat lines, essentially.
Mooney,
Equiminius
-4.
St. Brown, 2 receptions, 39 yards. He led the team. For the Packers, Sammy Watkins had another bona fide good game. 3 receptions, 93 yards. Aaron Jones was 3 receptions for 38 yards and a touchdown. And other than that,
Lazard came in clutch with that.
Lazard was hurt, but got 2 receptions for 13 yards, but got a TD. I don't know if the Packers defense played well or the Bears offense just that fucking bad. I think it was a combination of both. The Bears defense is somewhat uninspiring, even though they did get to Rodgers 3 times yesterday. Realistically, every matchup in this NFC North, depending on what we see out of Minnesota tonight, because Minnesota has true receiving threats.
Yeah.
And honestly, outside of Minnesota, Detroit probably has the next best group of receivers.
I agree.
This is going to be the
One's
team
hurt.
where everybody's going to run the ball down each other's throats.
Right.
It'll be interesting to watch going forward.
Whoever has the best defense out of these 4 teams will be the clear winner of the division.
I mean, we were talking about the AFC West being that battle of all the teams, right?
I think the North is that right now in the NFC.
That's what I'm saying. And now it's like, holy shit, NFC North,
Well,
every
you're gonna
team
see-
is going to
listen me,
fucking battle.
Minnesota goes in there and spanks Philadelphia. They're for real.
Yeah.
They're for real.
They actually scare me a little bit.
Who?
Minnesota.
Don't sit here and toot your cock right now. Minnesota should scare you a lot more than a little bit because Minnesota will win this division. The Lions played very nicely yesterday, but don't get it.
I didn't say it. I didn't say it.
This is a 6-win football team.
This is a big game for Minnesota. If they want to come out and really
solidify
show
their spot.
themselves as the best team in the division, they need to beat Philadelphia and beat them soundly. Philadelphia should have blew the Lions out last week.
Agreed.
Should have.
Well, the thing is,
they left a lot of
Detroit
points on the
plays
field.
Minnesota next week, so it's like if they can't stop Dalvin Cook, it's just going to leave room for all the receivers.
Absolutely, and we'll talk
see how
about
that works
later in the week. But I think this week will be the week where the Lions get kind of put back in their place. But tonight we have a matchup between Minnesota and the Eagles. We talked about it on Friday's show. I don't know why. That was my bad. But some notes that we had from that game. Ultimately, I think Minnesota has what it takes to win that game with a very slight edge. I think we're going to have another battle. I think it's going to be right down to the wire. I don't
This
think
could be what would be great right now is that this game turns into like the Baltimore Dolphin game. That would be awesome.
Yes. And you know
I
what?
would love to see
It has the makings for that.
50-point shootout.
I mean,
Justin
here.
Jefferson,
though,
and A.J. Brown.
60-point shootout.
I'd love to see Minnesota get buried, but
What's the line on this game?
Currently, it is Philly -2.
Okay.
And I'll be
At
honest
home?
with you. At home. And I think the only reason they are favored in this game is probably because they're at home. It's actually Eagles -2.5.
Okay.
But I would
take Minnesota in the points.
I would take Minnesota +2 in this game. I think that the Eagles D still has a little bit of growing up to do. I think in week 1, the Vikings had perfect balance on their offense. They played.
I think that the Eagles went through the perfect first game they could ever go through.
Yeah.
It was a very hard
every emotion. Yep.
hard-hitting, physical game. That's going to do them wonders for
well,
the
Hurts
game
said this is a completely different team than last year. So
Yeah.
they gave them a run for their money.
But I'll say this: if Minnesota wins tonight and they win
convincingly,
yeah, they will run with this division. I'll say the same for the Eagles. If the Eagles beat Minnesota tonight convincingly, they will run with their division.
Yeah.
Right. This is
division leaders right here.
Correct.
And you know what? It wouldn't surprise me if these two teams meet in the playoffs.
No, I would
It would
agree
not
with you
surprise
there.
me.
And there's it's a 50-point over/under at the moment.
I'm going over.
And I think we'll have an over game. I think this is going to be a big game tonight. The other game tonight is the Titans versus the Bills, which I don't think will be a very exciting game. I don't think you're going to see all that much. I think the Bills are going to stuff their socks in the Titans' mouths, and they will.
So they can figure out what the hell's wrong with
The
them.
Bills are a 10-point favorite, and just until we can
Give
see,
up the 10.
and until we see otherwise, bet with Buffalo. Outside of that, some quick news injury updates. Trey Lance underwent successful surgery today to fix his ankle.
Did you see his leg twisted to the side there?
Yeah. His ankle was on 696. Essentially, he was at the Stanford hospital. They repaired a fractured fibula and ligaments and all kinds of shit like that.
Now, see, this is the thing now. He could be out quite some time just because of ligament damage and nerve damage.
They said, quote unquote, he will be recovered completely in time for a full return in the 2023 season.
Okay.
So, and
because it happened in week 2.
Yeah, exactly.
It would happen in week 10.
We'd have a different conversation.
You wouldn't see him till the following year.
Denver news. Jerry Jeudy's considered day-to-day, dealing with a chest sternum injury. And cornerback Patrick Surtain is considered day-to-day with a shoulder injury. And I think that is... Oh, Mike Evans is suspended for 1 game for little boying the fuck out of Marshawn Lattimore last week.
Well, he didn't just do that. He threw a couple of guys on the ground. And I will say this.
Hey, Lenny was involved in that too.
I thought he was going to get thrown out.
Yeah.
I thought Fournette was going to get tossed too.
Well, you see, Fournette was actually smart about it because he didn't retaliate. He come up and he let Lattimore hit him.
Yeah.
And then when Mike Evans seen that shit, it was on.
over, yeah.
It was on.
Yeah.
And I'll say this. Mike Evans is 6'4" and 240.
So you
got to watch out for a guy like that because he tossed him around like he was a rag doll.
Yeah, he did. He just absolutely... He shit on him. He did. That is all we have for you today. Enjoy Monday Night Football this week. Tune back in on Wednesday for our Fantasy Frenzy show, where we will go over all of our starts and sits of the week and who our big favorites will be in fantasy football for week 3. If you have not yet, follow our socials, Instagram and Twitter at TipBalls. We live tweet the games. And on TikTok at TipBalls Podcast. Check out tipballs.com for any and all information. And if you're watching us, listen to us on Spotify. If you're listening, subscribe to us on YouTube. Thank you guys so much for listening. You'll hear from us on Wednesday.